China accused Philippine vessels of deliberately ramming a China Coast Guard patrol boat during the latest South China Sea confrontation. Beijing claimed Philippine personnel aggressively confronted Chinese officers during the maritime clash, an allegation denied by Manila. The China Coast Guard said Philippine crew members swung oars and poles at its personnel during the disputed encounter. With Beijing and Manila presenting sharply different accounts of the incident, competing claims continue to fuel tensions in the South China Sea. China's Coast Guard accused Philippine personnel of deliberately ramming one of its patrol boats near Ren'ai Jiao during a confrontation on July 20th. The CCG said two rubber boats launched from the Philippine vessel LT-57 rapidly approached its patrol craft despite repeated warnings to keep their distance. Beijing claimed the Philippine boats intentionally rammed the Chinese patrol vessel while it was carrying out what it described as routine maritime law enforcement operations. The CCG also alleged that Philippine personnel assaulted Chinese law enforcement officers using oars and long poles during the confrontation at sea. China said its crews responded with repeated warnings, evasive maneuvers, and what it described as proportionate countermeasures to control the situation. The CCG maintained that its personnel exercised maximum restraint throughout the incident while acting in accordance with Chinese maritime law. Beijing accused Manila of distorting the facts and making false claims in the aftermath of the confrontation near the disputed shoal. China's Coast Guard rejected the Philippine allegations, calling them a complete reversal of the facts surrounding the maritime incident. Earlier, the Philippine government said Chinese Coast Guard personnel struck a Philippine sailor with a wooden baton during the same confrontation. China and the Philippines traded blame after confrontation at 2nd Thomas Shoal on July 20th, further escalating tensions in the disputed South China Sea. Manila said Chinese Coast Guard personnel struck a Philippine sailor with a wooden baton during the maritime confrontation. Philippine officials said the incident occurred as their vessels attempted to drive away a Chinese ship operating near the disputed shoal. Video released by Manila appeared to show a Chinese crew member striking a Philippine sailor during the encounter at sea. However, Beijing accused the Philippines of provoking the confrontation, claiming Manila initiated the disputed maritime operation. The U.S. State Department condemned what it described as China's dangerous and aggressive actions during the latest confrontation. Statement by U.S. Department of State said, and I quote, "The United States condemns China's dangerous and aggressive actions against Philippine Navy personnel at 2nd Thomas Shoal in the South China Sea on July 20, 2026, and calls on China to immediately cease its destabilizing conduct. China's troubling pattern of provocation against lawful Philippine maritime operations undermines regional peace and stability, and directly contradicts China's repeated commitments to resolve disputes peacefully. We stand with our ally, the Philippines, and commend the professionalism and restraint shown by Philippine Navy personnel in this incident. We reaffirm the July 2016 Arbitral Tribunal ruling, which found that China's expansive maritime claims in the South China Sea have no basis in international law. That decision is final and legally binding on both China and the Philippines. We will continue to stand with our allies and partners in defense of a free and open Indo-Pacific." Unquote. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio arrived in Manila as ASEAN foreign ministers gathered for a new round of regional security and diplomatic talks. Rubio's visit came amid sharply rising tensions following the latest confrontation between Chinese and Philippine forces at 2nd Thomas Shoal. China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi is also expected to arrive in Manila later this week to participate in the ASEAN ministerial meetings.